on the following show are not necessarily the views and opinions of WHPS, its affiliates, management, or sponsors.
It's that time, y'all. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. Yeah, it's straight talk with Valerie. Come on. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. Yeah, it's straight talk with Valerie. Come on. It's straight talk with Valerie. It's straight talk with Valerie. Come on. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. It's straight talk with Valerie. Come on. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. It's straight talk with Valerie. Come on. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream.
What's up, Detroit and surrounding areas? You are listening to Black Coffee, No Sugar, No Cream, 88.1 FM. If you are in Detroit and surrounding areas, 107.3 WVIE in the Virgin Islands. And then everyone that's on Facebook all around the world. People have been tuning in from Africa, within the United States. And I'm extremely grateful. So tonight, it's Stop the Madness Monday. And I want to try to stop some of the madness that I've been hearing about certain things. Of course, I have my own opinion, as you know. I was telling someone earlier, I knew I was a double minority as far as being a black female. But now I'm a triple minority because of my opinion, especially during this election year, is nowhere near the opinion of other minority black women or anybody else. You know, when it comes to this race, I find that some people think what I'm saying is far-fetched, and that's fine. You know, what's not fine is to try to convince me otherwise. So, you know, I'll be that triple threat, but I won't be bullied. And that's how that's going to work. But I'm so privileged, again, to have my brother, who we call the mayor. He's not the official mayor of the city of Ypsilanti, but he is damn sure somebody that is very knowledgeable, very community oriented, and serves that community in every capacity that he possibly can. I bring to you no other than Mr. Brian Foley. What's up, my brother?
Hey, you got a sister. That's a grand introduction you gave me there. I so hope I can fit them shoes.
Oh,
Yeah.
most
Yeah,
definitely.
I try to help, try to get in. Yeah, I just try to get in where I fit in and get the help that's needed where I see it. You know, those who need help the most should get the most help, and that's what my motto is.
Well, you know, you do a wonderful job. You do a wonderful job.
Yes,
So tonight is a what I'm calling Stop the Madness Monday. So I have just a few random topics that I want to talk about, and they're not directly correlated to each other. They could be. But there's been a lot of discussion about Kamala Harris. Is she Asian? Is she black? Is she Jamaican? What is she? In my mind, the only difference between a Dominican, a Puerto Rican, a Cuban, a Grenadian, or anything else, is including an African American, is where the ship stopped along the Middle Passage. It stopped and a few got off, and the rest of them made the ride on over to the United States. However, when I think about myself, as I said, I know I'm a triple minority, but am I black or am I African American? So let's watch this clip. I found it very interesting. And it talks about, are you black or are you African American? So let's check it out.
Welcome back, everyone. My name is Adrienne Broaddus. At first glance, when you see me, how do you identify me? I identify as a black woman. But here we are, 2019, and racial identity is still a fundamental dividing line in our country. As part of Black History Month, we're going to have some real conversations and tackle some contentious topics. We begin tonight with the term African American or black. Which should you use?
I think they don't understand who black people are.
On the Breakfast Club, Senator Kamala Harris, also a Democratic presidential candidate for 2020, defends her heritage after critics questioned her blackness.
I'm not going to spend my time trying to educate people about who black people are.
Notice she underscores black. But some do want to understand. For example, Tracy sent me an email saying, "There is a question that I have always been afraid to ask." In our charged society these days, you have to be so careful about what you say so as not to offend someone. I never know whether to refer to someone as African American or black.
Well, black and African American, they are interchangeable. But something unique is happening in American society.
Keith Mays is a professor of African American and African Studies at the University of Minnesota. He says some believe African American is too restrictive for the current population.
But those who are descendants of slaves, those who we call African American, we refer to as African American, descendants of slaves, the percentage of those black folks are going down. So it used to be 97, 98, 99% of black folks that you would encounter were descendants of slave African American. But we have more black people here from other parts of the diaspora and from the continent. So we have a lot of East Africans here, a lot of West Africans. We've always had a lot of Caribbean blacks in the United States.
In part, Mays says the term African American highlights origins in the African continent and history on the American continent.
When I address you as black or African American, they both apply okay, but it may be a situation where there may be some black folks whose parents come from other parts of the world who may not identify with African American. It's better to call them Black American.
The national theme this year for Black History Month is migration. Turns out about 9% of black people in the United States are foreign-born. That's according to the latest data from the Pew Research Center.
Generally, black or African American is okay. Colored is not, Negro is not, is not. And that's another educational moment that we have to have in this country, because we don't even know what terms to use when addressing people.
And that's where we'll pick the conversation up tomorrow with the N-word. Why it's socially acceptable for some to use and not others. Plus, later in the week, we explore the history of the word right here on Breaking the News.
So, all right, Mayor Foley, let's get into it. So I'll start by saying this. I'm black. There are some cases where I'm blackety black, but I'm always black. Am I a descendant of a slave? Of course, but I don't consider myself African American because of that dissension. I wasn't like born in Africa and then migrated over here. So I don't call myself African American. Anyone white or non-melanated, they don't have to worry about calling me African American. I'm black, and I'm all right with being black. And sometimes I'm blackety black. But I do not change colors when I'm embarrassed. I don't turn blue when I'm cold. I don't turn another shade when I'm angry. So I'm not colored. And anybody that turns all of those shades with those emotions, you shouldn't call people colored. You're colored. I'm not colored. I'm always black. When I'm mad, I'm black. When I'm embarrassed, I'm black. When I'm cold, I'm black. The only time I'm going to turn blue is probably if I'm dead, and I wouldn't even know that. So I am not colored. I am black. And for my black brothers and sisters who choose to spew the N-word, whether it's a ER on the end and you non-melanated, or it's an A on the end and you black, I am not your Negro either. I'm blackety black. So you don't have to worry about it. I'm black. What about you, Mr. Foley?
Hey, I'm black. And I only classify myself, I don't use the term black. And if you ever read any of my writings, I say it's persons racially classified as black. Racially classified as black, right? That is a lowercase black. But I'm with you, sister, I'm black. But let me give you what my definition of black is. Capital black, B-L-A-C-K, right? This is Stephen Biko. Black consciousness is an attitude of the mind and a way of life. It is the most positive call to emanate from the black world for a long time. The realization by the black man of the need to rally together with his brothers around the cause of their oppression, the blackness of their skin, and to operate as a group
Kind of losing him a little bit. That's on
to
his side.
rid themselves of the shackles. Yeah. If you look at me in this image right here, right? Of course, my skin tone is much lighter than yours, a little bit lighter than yours. But no, I'm black, right? No, I'm not an African American, right? I am black. I was listening to the talk that was going on, and one thing they said was you have people Dominican, you have people Jamaican, you have people from the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rican, Cuban, who look just like me, right? And they identify themselves different. The only difference between us and them is boat ride. Where you got off the boat at. You
That's
get what I'm
right.
saying? Your boat stopped here, this one stopped here, and we stopped here. No, I don't call myself an African American. I don't call myself that, and that is what I am not. I am black. But like I say, I'm talking about a state of consciousness, a level of consciousness. And then, like I say, when I classify myself, as in the United States, I classify myself racially, which is a false misnomer anyway, is race. Racially classified as black. No, I'm black. And I heard what you said, you know.
You know, because to me, when you say nationality, then that means you should be connected to some type of nation, right? If you come
Correct.
from France, French
Right.
American, you know, Grenadian American or whatever. So that's why I say Black American. I'm not African American. I have some friends from Congo. They're African American, you know, but I'm black.
Exactly. I am
Black.
black in America.
In
I'm a black
America.
man in America. Right. When
And-
we look at that term, yeah. Go
No,
ahead, sister.
no, you go ahead, honey. Go ahead.
You know, look at that term. How do we become lowercase black? Right. That is a caste system that I don't know if I shared it on your show before. That was in 1676 at the Bacon Rebellion, when they rebelled against the governor of Virginia. Okay. At that time, prior to this Bacon's Rebellion, Native Americans, English, all band together as one, whites, whatever, but the racial classification wasn't there. So all you had was people who were either slaves or people who were in servitude to the upper class, who considered themselves as white, right? That they were above everybody else. So they created this lower class, and everybody else was either racially classified as white or racially classified as black, which is the beginning of racism. Now, people who are racially classified as white do not get the same privileges as the elites, but by that social classification as white, they get what is called white privilege. So, and everybody who is a substratum, lower than white, is a substratum, one way or another, of black. Whether you be a Puerto Rican, whether you be a Dominican, whether you be a Native American, and check this out, whether you be a Irish or Greek at that time, you were considered to be black because you are not white. You are non-white. So when we look at that right there, right, at the beginning of racism, at the Bacon Rebellion, to understand this classism that was created. And so that's why I look at myself as the uppercase black, what you and I identify as, what I use as a definition of Stephen Biko, black.
Yes.
State of consciousness, a levelness of awareness as to who I am and where I'm at all times.
Well, you know, she meaning Kamala Harris, like she said in that clip, I don't have time to be running around trying to explain, you know, am I black enough or whatever. I can throw waste out the window and still say she's not enough for me. And I'll tell you this one thing, her and Criminal Justice Joe, you know, we're going to be in for a great ride with some of the systems that they put in place. You know, all the wrongful convictions she got under her belt and the crime law that he helped devise under his belt is why a lot of our black brothers and sisters are in the situation that they are in right now. And so, you know, I don't know if Joe used facial recognition software to pick between his black candidates. But I guess they all look the same if he did, because I'm against facial recognition software too, Big Joe.
100%, yeah.
So
Yes, indeed.
I just don't understand that. That's never a problem. I never heard her publicly say. I had to dig and dig and dig to find that clip when she was on the Breakfast Club to even have the word black come out of her mouth. You know, I think that if you are saying you are for the black community, not from the black community, but for the black community, and you were selected off of this premise that you're going to do so much for us. First of all, it's a lot of people out there saying the black vote don't matter. I beg to differ, because you see they lobbying, they trying to get it real hard. They are hustling for the black vote. So it is important, and they do need it. But I've never heard her say yet publicly that she is black. So
Yeah.
does it matter?
Sound like that. Of course it matters. 100% matter. When you look at that, take a look at the U.S. Census. When you look on there, sometimes you have white, then you have black, and then you have Native American, you have Asian American, you have Latin, you have Latin, Latino white, Latin non-white. Okay, and then you have other down there. So when you start talking about allocating money as a split up in the census, if you check that box other than black, right, / African American, we're gonna get that a pass just for a moment right there, / African American, and when you start passing out the money, hell yeah, that makes a difference, because that determines where that money is going to. So if she wants to classify herself other than black, what she's doing is taking monies, our tax dollars, and allocate them to another community that is non-black. So hell yeah, make a difference when you call yourself black or not black, because that's how the money is doled out. And that's one of how the systemic racism works pretty good, because we're not aware. We want to be something other than what we are here in America. And a lot of people don't want to be classified as black. They don't want to be black because they so much want to be like master, just the closest I can get to white, to others I can get away from black. And if I can just touch the hem of the master's garment, I can just be whole again. Just let me in. You know what I'm saying? That's that old Tiger Woods stuff. Tiger Woods talking about he wasn't black, right? What did he say he was? I'm a Cabalasian. Want to be anything other than who he is, just a total lack of knowledge of herself and everything like that. So I'm with you, sister, you know, and I know we get in trouble, me, you, and Trisha, but I like good trouble.
Yeah, that's good trouble, though. I'm all right for it.
Yeah, good trouble. Yeah, I'm casting my vote the way that I'm gonna cast my vote, right? But I'm conscious of the reason I'm casting my vote. But like you say, just got somebody up there, the mindset. You get what I mean? Look at the mindset the woman has and what have you. And that's the stuff that I have to look at. Yeah, we got, you know, I've been seeing so many of our sisters and our brothers, like, man, we got a black person in office. It's a vice president. Everything is going to be all right. Well, hell, I remember 16 years ago, we got a black person in office. And look what he did for the last 8 years.
The gays, the homosexuals and the gays, I think gained a lot from that. I'm going to say one more thing about does race matter? If race doesn't matter, take it off the credit applications and the job applications.
Yeah.
Take it off. If it don't matter, take it off. And then let's just see.
Take it off the census.
Yeah. Take it off.
If it don't matter, let's see what happened. Right. So, you know, I just wish our people would read just a little bit. You get what I'm saying? And not just listen, but take the time out to read what's being said and what's that person said. You know, we just want anything. You get what I mean? We accept anything. I recall, you know, when President Obama won the Democratic nomination. I remember when he won the election. I just seen black folks just crying. They was crying, man, like Jesus had returned home, you know, and they was just so happy. Only come find out 8 years later, when the cloth was and the bill was written back, they come to find out nothing had changed. Mm-hmm. Ain't nothing changed whatsoever. If things had changed, if things had gotten truly better up underneath the Obama administration, you and I would not be having this conversation right now. You know, we got to be on watch. We got to pay attention to the, I call them the black bourgeoisie. You get what I'm saying?
I
We
do.
got to take a look at that. Yeah.
I do. Well, here's the thing right here. And I, too, was happy that we got our first black. And, you know, again, if that's what we want to call him, you know, but I
Right.
believe he might have been African American, too. But whatever he was, for sake of the point I'm getting ready to make, we've already had that day where we were happy that someone got in office just because they're black. I ain't giving no more passes for that. We made that mark in history. You're not getting no more passes from me because you're black.
Exactly.
So get on down the road with that. Kick a can down the road. Just kick a can. But you're not getting a pass from me
Exactly.
because you're black. I don't care what color you are. I don't. You know, at 56 years old and the things that I've been through in my life, if you see me with a midget and he's an amputee, just be like, well, Valerie happy. So it don't even matter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let my little midget, I'm gonna teach him how to hop on in the car. We'll go about our business. I don't care about looks. I don't care about any of that stuff. And don't nobody get in my inbox talking about I was making fun of midgets or whatever. You're gonna get your feelings hurt. It
Right.
was a joke. And if you don't know how
They
to
do
laugh, you're gonna get your feelings hurt. I'm letting you know right now. Anyway, my point about that is we got to get away from all of that. And what of substance does someone have? I am tired of voting in elections because I don't want the other person. I would love to see a time in my life where I'm voting, where I'm truly casting my vote because I truly want you, not because I don't want somebody else.
That's right.
You know,
Look at that prosecutor's race that we had in Washington County that you and I and others, we were very out front and vocal on, right? We wanted Eli Savage in to win, not to get the other person out of office, but to bring in somebody that we wanted, right? And a lot of people couldn't understand how come we didn't go for the black candidate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. We weren't in it because he was white and she was black, and let's just say on the front, one of the chosen person. You understand what I'm saying? Because I that's what we're done. She was the one that was chosen by the black status quo to be successor of Brian Mackey, and we didn't support her because we wanted Mackey regime necessarily out. We wanted Eli Savage in because of the program and the policies that he was going to be implementing. And that showed we got behind somebody because we wanted them in, not to vote somebody out. And that's what we're dealing with right now on the national stage. Nobody doesn't really want Biden in when you really think about it. Everybody's
Agreed.
voting to what? To get Trump
To get
out.
Trump
Black
out.
people are getting, they know that. I'll sit up and tell you, everybody know that Biden is not the best candidate for nothing right now in this time in his life. I don't know who he was, what his competency level was before then, right? But
Is
right
he
now,
even
he is not the
competent?
best choice.
I never heard him
Is
say
he even
anything.
competent? Yeah, sometimes coherent and incoherent, lost where he's at, lost the time and everything, you know? And then when you look at some of the stuff that he says, you get what I mean? Think about what he says, you know? I mean, that's the biggest insult I ever had, and people trying to, like you said, give him a pass when he said, if you don't vote for him or what he said, don't for Democrat, you ain't black. And everybody wanted to pass that off and give it a pass.
Nah, you're not
You
getting
get
no
what I'm saying?
pass over here.
You ain't getting no, you don't get no pass for me over here.
That was
You understand what I'm
insulting. That was one of the
Right.
biggest insults. And then he came a couple of weeks later and said something else when it was against something he said about Hispanics. And I was having a Florida Evans moment, like, damn. You know, like, just shut up until November, because I thought I was voting for the lesser of two evils. Now I'm voting for the lesser of the two ignorance.
Exactly. When he said, and I'm paraphrasing, and I believe he said the Latino or Latin American demographic, unlike what he said was unlike black folks.
Black folks.
They're very
They're very
unlike.
diverse. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They're very diverse. Like we one size fits all. Everything we do the same. You know, we like fried chicken and collard greens and watermelon. We all like to dance. We all do this. We all that. We're not a diverse. We're all Christians. Ain't none of us Muslims. Ain't none of us Jehovah Witnesses. Ain't none of us Mormons. Right? We all the same. We are a monolithic community, and we have one mindset and what have you. That's an insult. And what really makes me madder than that is not so much even what he said, because you can expect a fool to say foolish stuff. But when we try to defend it and try to shovel it up underneath the rug to say, hey, just ignore that, because why? Y'all messing up our chance to get Trump out of office. Huh?
Trump don't need us. He already taken all the mailboxes out of the community. He gonna steal the election anyway. National Guard gonna have to go get him out. So we ain't even, that is that. Remember we did that Willie Lynch letter, and we probably need to revisit that show. That's that Willie Lynch syndrome right there.
Yeah, we didn't complete that show, if you recall, because we got into it so deep that we didn't get into it. But if you really pay attention on what's really happening, on what's really going on, I keep telling people this all the time. The left and the right wing are attached to the same bird, okay? And when you understand that, look, what is that? Republicans vote by mail, okay? So by removing the mailbox, so the Republicans' mail's not going to deliver just as much as the Democrats were. But here's the deal. We're not looking at a Republican or a Democratic thing. We're looking at a totalitarian type of government coming into play. And if you're not conscious of what's really happening out there, you'll think that it's a left versus right, and it's not. It is still the same thing. It's systemic racism. It's a system of white supremacy trying to maintain power, right? As people become conscious on both the left and the right. Some of my closest friends, right? And I agree with some of the things that the Republican Party has to offer, right? But right now, it's a terrible representation that they have in power up underneath Trump right there. But Congress, when you session before the gavel was hit, you will see a mingling of people together, and you'll think that they're the best of friends. And when that bell rings and that gavel hits, and they go to the left aisle and the right aisle, next thing when they come before the podium, they up there cussing each other out when they was just outside eating a shrimp and fish dinner together like they was the best buddies. We got to become politically astute as to what's going on, and think that just because we put all of our eggs into one basket in the Democratic Party that they have our best interest. I respectfully disagree. They just depend upon us as a vote to push their policies and their particular ideologies, and most of them do not have our best interests in hand. Going back to Barack Obama as president, one of the first things he passed, right? And like I say, y'all go in, if you come into my inbox talking about I'm gay bashing, because I'm not.
Brian, we losing you a little bit.
Thing that he passed was, Steven.
Yeah, we're losing you a little bit.
Am I good now?
Yeah, you're good now. Repeat that, please.
Oh, yeah, I was talking about Obama, you know what I'm saying? And I said, let me say this again. Don't come into my inbox either talking about I'm gay bashing, because I'm not.
Yes.
But what I said is one of the very first pieces of legislation that Barack Obama passed was legislation for the LGBTQ community. And the next thing he did was deal with immigration issues. But what did he do with anything exclusively to uplifting the black people? He did nothing. But people love to say that we are in everything, No. We've got to deal with an issue that has been affecting our community for the longest, that we are ADOS, right? American Descendants of Slavery. And if you're not willing to put that on your agenda as your number one issue for me on the top to address with us, you're really not going to get no support from me. I don't care how much you parade around or that you say that you black. Did you see that picture on there when she was on there on that? I'm talking about some respectful people are passing around. Yeah, she black because she was putting some hot sauce on her greens.
You know what? That is ridiculous. That has that's a whole show by itself right there. That's crazy. You know, and we will never get together and sing Kumbaya because we too busy singing Kumbaya. What in the world does that have to do with anything? Let me say this, and then we're going to move on to our next segment. Nothing that was said or done is nothing more than our opinion. It is not to bash her. It's not to bash anyone else. It's our opinion. And that's what Black Coffee is about, straight talk. You know, it's my opinion. It's not meant to bash. And if you're feeling some type of way about it, stop, drop into the depths of your own soul and check your feelings. You know, because this will be your first lesson in learning to agree to disagree. And that's something else we don't do well in our community. We don't know how to disagree. We got to argue.
Right.
You know, if I'm good on my point and you good on yours, what the hell we arguing for? I'm not going to change my mind because you don't agree with me. I'm still good over here. I can't be bullied into being a Democrat. I can't be bullied into being a Republican. I voted for both parties before. I'm an independent thinker who's very analytical. And I vote on the issues and who I feel is best. What I need to see now from Kamala Harris is this. I don't care how blackish you are or none of that. What I do care about is, are you being set up for failure? Because I've never seen this much hoopla and press around a vice president before in my life. Now, Joe Biden we always get old white men for president. I am not trying to dismiss that, but he's old, he's been sick, he's had some health challenges. If something happens to him, you now become president of the United States. Are you capable? You have some education, so do I. But I've been in a room with some Harvard graduates that couldn't stand toe to toe with me. So what does that mean? Where you graduated from? I have a track record too. Maybe I should run for president. So I need to hear what you gonna do. What are you about? And not for a specific black America, white America, just for America. I can't wait until Thursday night. I don't want to see a prosecutor show. We know you can eat somebody's ass alive in a debate. You're a lawyer. You better.
You better.
That's what you do.
Exactly.
But what are you going to do, not just for Black America? What are you going to do for America? It needs to be known.
You know, I'm probably going to get in my trouble for this, but you stoked something in me when you said that you haven't seen anybody this excited about a vice presidential candidate. At least I haven't either in my lifetime. I'm really thinking about it. Well, they was really just stoked out about the vice president. You know who's always been behind the scenes, running everything, even in the black church? It has been the black woman, right? When you look at who ran, check this out, who actually ran the plantation on the inside, right? Who ran it? Okay, black woman, right? She was a slave, but she made sure that everything was in order and stuff like that, right? Look at even on the movie, what's the girl who played? I can't remember the name of it. Olivia, right? On the TV show, she was behind the scenes doing all that old kind of stuff. And as much as I'm using,
are you talking about Olivia Pope?
Right, it was always Olivia Pope.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
Look at the person who, and I'm just using these stereotypes. You know what I'm saying? These stereotypes. I watched Mannix on TV, right? The detective. He had a detective. His secretary. His name was Peggy, what have you, right? Look at that role. that the black woman has always played. She always played a role behind the scenes, but she always kept things together. Even in our community, right? She always tightens things up and keeps things together when you really look at it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So now we got this guy, right? He's kind of senile a little bit, you know, a little bit of dementia, and
I'm sorry for laughing.
you know what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? So now we got the and people watch, they gonna come on me, right? Now we have this mammy character. I didn't call her mammy.
But some
I said the mammy
legislator
character.
did, called her Aunt Jemima. Sure did.
Woo! You know, and I ain't saying that. I am not saying that. I'm talking about the role. You get what I mean? To make sure that he's okay, you're okay and everything, and take care of everything. And you remember, anytime somebody came in, and when the slaves got out of line and everything, it was always that character that was in the house, in the master's house, who always came, right, and shooed everybody away. And she stood behind master thick and thin. And the fact of business was, she was much more intelligent than master. She
Mm-hmm.
always was.
Mm-hmm.
Played that role good. You feel what I'm saying? She kept stuff together, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just looking at that. You kind of stoked that in me when you said kind of excited about that. It's like, because now everything we're going to be all right. We got a sister, but she's not really the boss for real, for real, for real. She's the straw boss behind the boss, but she's showing up and make sure that the boss suit is pressed and his tie is tied up right, and he got his shoes on the right feet. You know what I mean? So, and they're making sure that he don't got no blue socks with his black pants on. You know, so kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is. Let's move on. So you are listening to Black Coffee, No Sugar, No Cream, Straight Talk with Valerie, 88.1 FM in Detroit, 107.3 WVIE if you're in the Virgin Islands, and if you're on a Facebook Live, you're coming in from all over the world as far as Africa. This is just a Stop the Madness Monday. We started out with the madness about if you're African American, if you're black, or whatever you are, and that kind of morphed into this discussion. It was motivated by Kamala Harris, and it just kind of morphed into this discussion. But because we are on the topic of elections, let's move into another area. The black church played a very strong role. When we talk about the role that the black woman has played in the community and standing behind any man or behind anything and just being that backbone, even when you look at pictures of women in Africa, you don't see men carrying a basket and the water and everything on their heads. You see the woman doing it.
The woman.
But let's look at the black church, because in my mind, the black church served as a powerful political, social, and spiritual institution, and was the backbone of the black community for a long time. Whatever pastor said, because pastor sounds so much like master to me, I don't say it. You know, but in a lot of church situations, our pastor said, pastor, you know, and it's like, come on now, that's a man, you know, and you can say what you want to say. My biological father is a pastor, and I don't listen to him. So like I said, I'm in the minority when it comes to my beliefs, what I do, what I say. Ask my parents if you ever run into them. Just got that rebel in me. I'm non-conforming. I'm not status quo, never have been, never will be, and pastor can't tell me nothing. And it's not that nobody can't tell me anything, but it's just not anybody can tell me anything. That's what I'm saying. I do listen to people. But when we go back to the black church, like Dr. King and all of those areas where the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and, you know, some of these other things birthed out of the black church. Have black churches lost their relevancy?
You know, have they lost their relevancy? No. Have they been compromised and co-opted? Yes. Let's back up a little bit, because you said something right there. You said Dr. King, the civil rights movement. All of that stuff was birthed out of the black church. Mm-hmm. Okay. I am a member of a church. I'm a member of a Baptist church, right? But one thing I know, and maybe we'll talk about it later date, is that the church doesn't understand its sacraments. It doesn't understand the symbolism behind the things that they do. The secrets of the temple, I always tell everybody, is that it's hidden in the basement of the Baptist church. They don't know what they got because they don't know what they're working with. Okay, and if you go back and understand that Christianity, Judaism, and Islam are mere peripheries of African spiritual system, and the closest thing to that is the black church, but it's so co-opted and compromised with Greek mythology and Greek ideology, we don't even recognize our own baby when we see it. Okay, but prior to just beginning of the civil rights movement, something happened. Okay. And that was the 501c3. When churches started applying for nonprofit status. Once they became nonprofit churches, 501c3, what they couldn't do was bite the hand that fed them. So they could not be engaged politically as a church. They can't be engaged in a lot of things politically, socially. They can't be engaged in a lot of things culturally because of what? In fear of losing their nonprofit status by being a nonprofit entity. Now, the pastor, as an individual, he can speak out, but the power of the church is the silencing of the church of the 501c3, which is something that they never had to do because in the First Amendment, there was always, I believe, it's the First Amendment, the separation of church and state, or maybe that's in the Constitution. Exactly. So you never had to become a 501c3 anyway. But what started happening is to get some of these government programs, some of this food, some of these schoolings and stuff like that, they bought into this nonprofit status and they lost their power. As it says in the in the New Testament somewhere, it says, has it lost its favor? Has it lost its flavor? Yes, it has. So is it irrelevant? I'm not going to say it's irrelevant, but they're going to have to separate themselves from Caesar if they're going to be the church as the church is supposed to be, as it was coming through the time of you and I, when churches took serious stands on issues, and they can't. They compromise. They've been bought out and they've been sold out. So if they start speaking loudly on a lot of things, and I believe it was in the Lyndon Baines Johnson who had a lot to do at that time. During the Eisenhower era, when the 501c3 came in, and then when Bush #1 came in with the faith-based initiatives. Okay, you can get this money. You can get this to rebuild your church. You can get this money to send your people to school. You can get this money to do this. You can get this money and get these free programs. However, when you take this money now, you got to shut up on politics. And that's what's going on even right now. So that's why the church is so watered down and doesn't have the potency as it did in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, even up to the late 70s.
I agree. I see Laverne Johnson is on, and she says she listens, but she forms her own understanding of what they say. Some of it is true, but some leaves you with a question mark. So she understands my view. Yeah, that happens. Let me say this. And I am a member of a church, but I'm not in good standing because they have members that are in good standing. I am not in good standing, and I'm fully financially prepared to use the funeral home for any service I need to bury somebody in my family if that is the case. But my pastor, my master pastor, my pastor fully understands who I am. We do a lot of community work together. Just talked to him on the phone 2 days ago. I love Pastor Willis because he loves me for who I am. He's not trying to do anything else but that. And that's why I've been in that church for 25 plus years and probably will be. But let me say this. When you talk about the 501c3 and you're talking about charity, practice what you preach. You preach that you should give the church 10%, and then you do what you need to do with the 90%. But I have yet to see any church, even my own, give 10% of what they bring in to the community and work with the 90% that they have. I see them give something. I see them do something, But I guarantee you, if you audit those books, they're not giving back 10% of what they bring in, especially those mega churches. I live by one, Greater Grace. They bought that golf course. I believe they thought they were going to turn it into a funeral, not a funeral home, a cemetery, but it's too wet. It's like a lot of protected wetland and stuff over there, and that didn't mesh out. It's right there at 7 and Telegraph. I think it was Rogale Golf Course. I don't know the name of it, but that's where I live now with my gentleman. So they don't even cut the grass. Now they've sold it back to the city of Detroit, and they're going to make a park out of it. But they didn't even cut the grass. The grass is higher than the fence. It's all kind of wildlife and deer and everything walking down 7 Mile with the other school kids on their way to school. Like, they didn't even take care of it.
I was wondering where them tigers was coming from.
7 Mile. You know, so if we start to me, with COVID-19, when it shut down even the church, I don't consider the church being shut down. They always consider themselves as an army of believers where anybody know anything about military service. When it's time for war, they get deployed. The church was deployed with COVID-19. They were deployed, and they were supposed to do something in this warfare at this time. You got 20 of them in a 2 square mile community. It should be a moratorium on that too. You don't need all of that. They're operating out of division. You have 5 or 6 Baptist churches in the same community. Why? Because somebody fell out with something else and went and started their own. You can't even work together, but you want to preach togetherness. You can't even come together and say, hey, it shouldn't be any homeless people. It shouldn't be any hungry people in any community. If you got 20 churches over there, hey, look, I'm going to pass out food on Monday. You take Tuesday, somebody else take Wednesday, somebody else take Thursday. And before you know it, it's Sunday where we can all come together and have this dinner. We're going to break bread. Shouldn't be hungry families in the community. If you got churches around the block from each other, where my church is, on the very next street, there is another church, and across the street from that, there is another church, and you go down Beverly Road, not even a half a mile, and hang a left, it's another church, but you pass 1 or 2 more before you even get there.
Woo. You know, you didn't need me on here today, because I'm going to tell you like this. I live on the south side of Ypsilanti, which is about a half-mile square area, and I can count 25 churches in that area. Just like what you say, I was going through my mind. I'm gonna pick this one street. I can leave out of this, walk up the street, go in this church, walk up the street, go into another church, walk into this church, walk into the front door of the church, walk out the back door of the church, and walk into the back door of another church. And this is Ypsilanti. And we got homeless people, and we have homeless, hungry people in Ypsilanti. You know, it's embarrassing.
It's
I mean, it
very
really is,
embarrassing.
you know, it's embarrassing.
It's
But I'm gonna
very
tell you what,
embarrassing.
it is. When you don't have pastors who live in the community where their church is located at, okay, then they have no interest in what happens when they go home. The only place they interested in, just like most of us, is their neighborhoods where their family rests their head at. So when the church is not having service, and when they gone home, so they only there 3-4 hours a week or whatever time that is, what happens in them other 6 days, they're not concerned to it because they don't have an attachment to it. And the other thing that really it tears me up, like you say, a church is not good standing. Why would I give my money, a 10% of my own money, right, to get to a church who up underneath the 501c3, they have to put their money into a financial institution, they have to keep records, but all the money they take, they put into a white-owned bank, right? And then they live off of the interest. The bank makes cash money off the interest of the money that the church puts in there. And then when I go down there to apply for a home loan or automotive loan or a home improvement loan, I can't even get money from the same bank that I gave a 10% of my interest in. But a white person can come in, like you say, who in good standings, they can borrow off the money that I put in, and then they're just leaving off. We talk about pastor pimping. Now the pastor ain't pimping, Pastor Pope pimping, but the one who really pimping off of us is the banks. And right, and we won't even take the time out to open up our own bank. Somebody told me, I could be wrong, but I read it somewhere. All it requires to start your own bank is $500,000, and it's less than that to start your own credit
union.
Now
Yes.
we got 25 churches in a half mile radius. You mean to tell me y'all can't get together and start a credit union?
But the key word
Can
is
we
get
come and do
together.
what Can we get together?
No.
We can. It was funny. Yeah, we can. I'm sitting up there, I'm looking at Church of God in Christ arguing with Baptists, and Baptists arguing with Methodists, and it's just the most craziest thing I've ever seen. You talking about the Crips and the Bloods, they ain't got nothing on the Colts and the Baptists.
Hey.
Nothing when it comes to vote.
You got that right, man. We went really, really deep on this, brother, like we always do, because it was one thing that I wanted to talk about it, and we're going to be shy for time. When I look at all of the separatism in our neighborhoods, especially among the churches, like we said, there's 20 of them on the south side of Ypsi, and that's what, about 1 square mile? They're like, it's a small space, the south side. You go from I-94 to what, Michigan Avenue?
Yeah, I-94 to the south, Michigan Avenue to the north,
Second Street, and then what, Hamilton?
You go all the way down to Huron Street.
Okay.
Huron
And
Street.
anybody that knows the area, that's not that big.
That ain't that big.
So here's the thing. Let me drop this in your spirit this evening. Integration hurt the Black community. I believe that our ancestors never wanted to be integrated. We never will be. I read the Constitution again over the weekend, and nothing burned me more. I wanted to light a fire to it. But I read it again, and I read the Bill of Rights again, just to refresh my anger, because that's all it really did. When I looked at what's written and why it was written. But I will say this. I believe Martin Luther King and everyone else really didn't want integration, because we never can fully integrate with society. They wanted to be separate but equal. And that's how Black Wall Street was erected. We were fine having our own banks, our own doctors, our own stores. We were rich. But what happened was we started getting a little bit richer than some of the whites and other people. So they bombed it. Greenwood. They bombed it. Greenwood, also known as Black Wall Street. They set it on fire.
Mm-hmm.
So integration, when everyone gets all happy about it, that was another design by the government, some more trickery, and it hurt us. Separate but equal would have been a lot better. We will never fully integrate. But see, some of us did integrate into other communities, and they did well. And I will use myself. I was one of them. When I made it out of Inkster and I started traveling around the world as far as China and other places and doing my thing, Inkster was the farthest thing from my mind to go back and visit. I actually tried to get my mama to move out. She never would. Come on, mama. I made it to the promised land, and I can bring my mama. She never, ever would. She still lives there to this day. How sick was that thinking of mine at that time, right? But that's all you ever was taught by my family and everyone else. Get your education and get out of here. So that's what was embedded in me. I didn't come up with that premise on my own, but I became convicted one day, not maybe 10 years ago. And I've been going back to my hometown, doing talks, working with kids, doing workshops. As a matter of fact, Amir Inkster will be on this show next Monday. So I'm tuned in. Him and I are going to chop it up next Monday. I said all that to say we have to be careful when we're telling our kids certain things. I know my mother and my grandmother didn't mean any harm by saying, get your education and get out of here. But even if my mother didn't part her lips, she left the South during the height of the civil rights movement. That's when I was born. And when she made it out, she never went back. But I believe her not going back was attributed to a lot of trauma of being a pregnant teen during the civil rights movement with segregation. I believe her reasoning for not ever going back to Alabama, and still has not been to this day, and I'm 56 years old, so for 54 years, 55 and a half, she's never went back there. And she said even when she die, don't take her back. But that reasoning was very different than my reasoning. My reasoning was, I made it over, hallelujah, and I ain't got to go back.
Right.
So that mindset of integration, but see, everybody can't integrate. And that's where the problem is. We all can't integrate. It's not going to work.
You know it. I understand that. I've heard that story so many times, and it's not unfamiliar whatsoever. I left the south side of Ypsilanti one time. I really did, and ended back up here, and I bought a house right across the street from my parents' house. So I'm sitting on the porch right now, because I seen the beauty of where we're located at, and what's really going on and what is really fueling gentrification. My official title with the city of Ypsilanti is a sustainability commissioner. We deal with things such as environmental, recycling, and global climate or global change. Okay. I came back here because the south side of Ypsilanti, and I want you to hear this too, listening audience, Inkster, Michigan is one of the most valuable pieces of property in the United States, not just simply in southeast Michigan, but in the United States. The Flint water crisis was not by accident, and it was done on purpose because of the land, because of what's taking place. And what's going on as we're experiencing climate change, global warming, you choose whatever you want to call it, but whatever it is, it's happening. And if you look at the weather pattern, the way that the weather will change, it is going to change. You can see it all the way around the world right now, so we're not going to be denied of it. But here's the deal, and I'm going to keep it real short. The safest place to be in the world right now is not only in Michigan, but is in southeastern Michigan, the lower half. Why? Because we have a fresh and we have a supply of fresh water. Okay. And as you look at the weather pattern, as where the Great Lakes are formed, that climate change, that warming will go around us and affect other parts of the world. And this is one of the safest places to live. They have been doing that. I should say persons who are not racially classified as black have been knowing this since the 1950s. You have to understand that, I'm going to use that word, the infamous they count time in increments of 40, 30, 20, and 10 years. They've already known what was going on, what we just found out sometimes last year or last week or in 2 weeks, because we live from paycheck to paycheck. So our biggest concern is making sure that we got something to eat next week, to be thinking about in a 10-year increment, okay? So, like you said, we left from out of here to integrate. We want to integrate, thinking that, as I said before, we can just get close enough to white folks. The white may
We kind of losing you again, Brian.
Will rub off on us. Yeah. Am I back again?
Yeah, you're back, and we got about 1 minute. So, yep, we can hear you now.
But let me cut right to this. When you talk about integration, you don't hear about Chinese people. You don't hear about Arab people. You don't hear about Mexicans talking about if we can just get closer to white people, we better. No, they love to stick together with them groups as a culture, as a group. We're the only people who want to leave our group, our culture, to be with somebody else. There is nothing wrong in the world with being black and staying black. We always want to, when we have a black organization, the first thing we want to say is we got to invite in the LGBTQ, we got to invite in the Latinos and the Muslims to be a part of a black organization. They don't never say, let's invite in the black people, right?
Yeah,
Not because they hate us or dislike us. It's because they stick with themselves as a group, and there is nothing wrong with that.
You are absolutely right. Well, my dear brother, as always, you and I run out of time. We could talk and talk and talk, But we got to get out of here. Thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. And we will
Love
get
you
together again and put together that shop talk with the elders on the South Side real soon. You have been
All right.
listening to Black Coffee, No Sugar, No Cream, Straight Talk with Valerie, where I don't try to spill the tea or daze you like you drank a shot of cheap liquor. I just want to give you some information where you can see things from a different perspective. Mine. Tune in next week at 7 o'clock where I will be chopping it up with the mayor of Inkster, Mr. Patrick Wimberly, and we will be talking about some of the things that's going on in the city of Inkster, what is his vision of the city of Inkster, and a whole lot more. You guys have a wonderful week, and we're out of here. See ya.